Hey everyone, this is BroTalk. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Today we're going to be speaking about logical fallacies, cognitive biases, and everything with that world. We're even thinking of maybe doing a 2 or 3-parter, so stay tuned for that. But we're going to talk about certain ones that we found interesting, how they apply to everyday life, and maybe how we can avoid them and what they really are. So guys, join our conversation. We hope you really enjoy it. Like this video, share this video. Thank you so much for being here in BroTalk. Enjoy.
So,
yes,
logical fallacies, right?
Uh-huh.
It's a very interesting topic because there are many fallacies that exist, right?
Correct.
There's the red herring one. There's the ad hominem one.
Mm-hmm.
There's the authoritative fallacy. There's the bandwagon. There is the what's the other one called? Yeah, the confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some of these we'll be talking about today. But before we get into what these fallacies consist of,
mm-hmm.
what exactly are they? When we get into conversations and stuff like that, where do you think these fallacies come from?
So, me personally, I think that's the most important and the most fascinating question. Because you just mentioned like 5 or 6 or 7 fallacies. Yeah. There's like hundreds of fallacies out there.
Yeah.
So according to my research and certain books that I've read in the past and even recently, so there's actually 2 steps on how these logical fallacies, or more importantly, how we as humans start to believe something, right? But I think the first thing from what I understood in my research is this: believe it or not, most of us, or all humans, we all do this, right? What we do is, when it comes to believing something, we first get the belief, and then we find evidence to support the belief. So a lot of times we think, and I'm not saying you or me particularly, but a lot of us, we think, no, I only start to believe something once I've done once I find the objective data and I find the evidence, then I'll believe it. No, as a matter of fact, we as humans, we do the opposite. We first find the belief, or we get the belief, right? And there's different ways of doing it, but we get the belief, and then we justify it by finding evidence to support what we already believe. So I think that's the first thing we have to say. Okay. Now that I said that, I'm not saying that you can then update your belief or change your belief based on evidence. 100% yes.
Yeah, that happens.
But most of the time, that is how we get to a belief, because this is just how we are formed. This is just how our psychology works. Okay.
Gotcha.
So there's a 2-step process of belief formation. So the first one, and I think this is so cool. The first one is called, I'm just trying to remember, it's called patternicity, right? Which is humans, we try to find patterns everywhere. And then the second step is agenticity. But let me talk about the first one first. Okay. Mm-hmm. So for example, the first one is patternicity, where our brain, we're trying to find patterns. And maybe there is a pattern, or maybe there isn't a pattern, right? So we're trying to find a pattern in our life, in the world. Mm-hmm. That's what we humans do, right? So now, why do we humans do that? So according to, like, for example, different cognitive and evolutionary psychologists, they'll say that we as humans, we have this thing in our brain where we're looking for patterns all the time because it helped our ancestors back in the day. It helped us detect dangers and opportunities, right? Back then. So the pattern was very active. They say that way of thinking is called system 1. System 1 thinking in the brain is very fast thinking, right? So for example, the example I read was like, if our ancestors in the caves, right? If you believe in that, right?
During those times.
During those times, let's say they were like in the wilderness and they saw a bush moving, or they saw it like in the bushes, like let's say they looked in the bush and it looked like the face of a tiger, let's say. So immediately their system 1 thinking would activate. In their minds, they would see a pattern of the face of a tiger in the bushes. And that helped them like run away and get away from the tiger. And sometimes they were right, and sometimes it was wrong. It was just maybe, I don't know, it was just the way the bushes were formed.
Gotcha.
Right? So our brains developed to look for patterns everywhere. Now that we know that, the second step of of forming a belief in our brain, which will then lead to a logical fallacy, is the second one is, for example, called agenticity, which is now we assign an intent or we assign meaning to a pattern, right? So, for example,
so they go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand.
Once we develop the pattern, now
once we find the pattern.
Once we find the pattern, there's meaning behind it.
No, we put meaning to it.
We put meaning behind it.
It doesn't mean there's meaning to it. I mean, maybe there is, but a lot of times there is no meaning to it. We as humans give meaning to that pattern, right?
Gotcha.
So we detect the pattern, and then our brains are like, okay, this pattern means this. It's from God, or it's a sign from a spirit, or whatever the case is, right? Mm-hmm. So we're giving something or someone, we're saying something or someone caused the pattern. Okay?
Okay.
So far, so good, right? So this is why we as humans believe in so many things. No matter theology, philosophy, religion, we believe in so many things because this is the particular, this is the particular way that we make a belief in our brain.
Gotcha.
Okay, so far so good?
So far so good.
So that is the two-step, that is the two steps on how we make a belief. And now the question that we should then ask, okay, once we make a belief, whatever it is, then why do those beliefs stick, even if they're wrong or not? And the answer, which I think you're going to talk about it later, I'm not going to go into much detail.
Okay.
The reason why beliefs stick has to do with confirmation bias that we do naturally, right? So after we form the belief, we look for evidence.
Yeah, you did mention that at the beginning.
To support what we believe or what our conclusion is, because we saw a pattern and now we gave meaning to it. Okay, now I need to find evidence or something to prove that what I'm looking at makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, right, I don't know if you know this, but once we make a belief and we confirm it, which I know you'll go into it, our brain naturally releases dopamine. Dopamine is the reward chemical.
So it makes us feel good.
Makes us feel good, after a workout or right? So once we believe something and we quote unquote find evidence and we're like, oh, I have something to prove it, guess what happens? Dopamine is released, so we feel good about it. So I don't know if we're realizing the steps. And then once, let's say that's all happening, you find the pattern, you give meaning, you confirm it. Oh, it is true, right? And the brain is releasing. The reason those beliefs become stronger actually has to do with environment. It's called a feedback loop, where now wherever you're at, and again, this doesn't apply to everyone, but most people, wherever you're at, let's say, in your environment, everyone else has the same belief. A lot of times environment can influence you to also have that same belief, because guess what's the benefit of doing that? There's unification. It promotes cooperation, morality, and so forth. Yes. So now,
it's like subjective at the same time, a bit.
A lot of it is subjective, yes.
Yeah, based on personal experiences and stuff you go through can help you like confirm.
So, yes and no.
Okay.
So like, yes, maybe. Yes, a lot of it in the beginning is subjective. It is.
Okay.
But yes, you may then look for subjective evidence to prove your belief is true. But then there are people who will go and look for objective evidence to prove your subjective belief.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then your environment just helps you form that belief a lot stronger. And the last thing I was going to say was that, so that is where logical fallacies and a cognitive bias comes from, right? You think a certain way, you rather think a certain way, right? Or your logic is flawed because as we see from this whole process on how we start to believe something, a lot of it comes from subjectivity. And a lot of times subjectivity, as the word says, it's subjective. It's not. There's no data. There's no hypothesis. And again,
it's not accurate.
It's not accurate. Yeah. But I'm not saying you can apply this framework to everything.
Of course,
you can't.
But there's exceptions and stuff that doesn't apply to it as well.
There's definitely a lot of categories that don't apply to this.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean it's not true or not. But I think if you stay, and now once we start looking into a specific logical fallacy, and we see the flaw in it, we can then go back to the whole formation and see where it lands. So yeah,
I like it because you mentioned how where it starts from.
Correct.
Right, it starts from this pattern, and then we give this meaning to this pattern, whether it's accurate or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's how these logical fallacies come from. And I believe it's important, and I'm glad that we're talking about these fallacies, because once you get to understand them better, not only where they come from, but understand what each is, I feel like you get better at arguing or debates, or when someone starts talking to you a certain way, you'd be like, hey, you're using a fallacy, and you can't use that to try to convince me. Because as a matter of fact, when I was studying, it says that people often resort to logical fallacies when their goal is to persuade others. So because fallacies appear to be correct, even though they are not, people can be tricked into accepting them. Right? Because all these logical fallacies, these arguments appear valid, but are based on faulty reasoning or inaccurate facts, leading to false or misleading conclusions. And where can we start from this, right? Well, let's start with one that I was able to investigate a little bit, that is, you actually mentioned it, the confirmation bias. Now, what is confirmation bias? Confirmation bias is when you tend to interpret new evidence to validate one's existing belief. So like you said, it all depends on environment. It all depends what's going on around you, or what you're told as well, right? And a few examples of this, of how can we get to like a confirmation bias, could be when you're, like, for example, relying on stereotypes or personal biases when assessing information. So many people can say a certain race does this, right? Or let's say the only people that are rich are white people.
Okay.
Why? Because a lot of people say that.
Well, that is true, yes.
Right? Whether that's true or not,
it's not true. But
it's not true if we actually like look at the statistics. But many people say that. Or many people say, man, the only people that are like killing and stealing are all black people. Is that necessarily true?
No.
So, but people will look for information to confirm their bias, right? Start looking out at maybe statistics that maybe confirm what they're saying, but not look at the other side.
Correct.
Right? And how can that, like those specific examples, say that we have confirmation bias on what we believe or what we say? For example, social media tends to be a big thing. For example, let's think of TikTok. The algorithm that shows up on TikTok could be based on your search engine, based on what you're constantly Googling, and therefore it's going to show you what you tend to agree with most of the time, right? Or it will just start to show you random stuff, right? Based on one topic. But it sees that you don't like these posts a lot. You don't save them. You don't rewatch them. Therefore, it's not going to keep showing you those posts. It's going to show you stuff that stimulates you, right? That confirm what you believe in.
And keeps you on the platform.
Therefore, if you believe blue is better than green, it's going to constantly show you blue stuff, that environment and stuff like that. Therefore, it keeps you on the algorithm, and it's confirmation for you to believe that whatever you think is right, instead of looking at the other side and trying to, in a sense, challenge yourself. You're always going to have a confirmation bias, because you're always looking at evidence that is always supporting yours, but never the other side.
Interesting. So I have two questions based on what you said, because I wanted to pick up everything you wanted to say first. And again, you can answer in any order you want. I'm just curious. So I guess my first question would be, can you give me an example in your personal life where maybe either you or someone that you know, you don't have to say the name, they use confirmation bias on you now that you know how good that is? Now you know that that's a logical fallacy, right? And listen, we all do it, right? But maybe a specific example on how maybe you did, or maybe someone else that they know has done it on you. And my second question is, so if you said previously that, we all do logical fallacies, and that logical fallacy happens when you're trying to persuade. I want to push back a little bit on that. Would you say that when you're debating or persuading, you can't speak to them without logical fallacies then? So those are my two questions.
Let me answer your second one first, because I feel like the first one is something definitely I got to think about, and it's more of a personal question.
Yes.
So the second question is, when you're debating or arguing, can you not use logical fallacies?
Yes, because it sounds, and I could be wrong, but earlier on you said that, can you read me the definition you wrote? Because it kind of sounded like there's no way to avoid a logical fallacy when debating or trying to persuade someone.
It says, well, people often resort to logical fallacies when their goal is to persuade others.
Yeah.
Because fallacies appear to be correct, even though they are not. Mm-hmm. People can be tricked into accepting that. Was that what it was?
Yeah, I think it was that one. So like, is that statement from that article you took, or like how you interpret it, are you saying that there's no way to persuade someone or debate someone without a logical fallacy? Or it's like the good or the bad side, they're always going to do some type of fallacy? I'm just curious.
No, I mean, you could also say your opinion if you want. Mm-hmm. I believe you could have a debate or argument with someone without using any type of fallacy.
Okay.
But you have to be very aware.
Yes, I was going to say very.
Extremely aware of what you are saying. But, I'm now that you're making me think, it's kind of hard too, right?
Yes.
Because let's get into it. So sometimes confirmation bias can also come from an authoritative
position. Yes,
right?
That's true. That's true.
Depending what you see as an authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So this is the first thing that popped in my head, so I'm just going to mention it. It's like theology.
Okay.
Right? Is there proof that God might exist? Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's an authority in a sense. And there is...
You mean God's the authority?
God is the authority.
Okay.
And maybe in many theological ways of thinking, you might not have a complete answer, but like God is so divine and he's been able to prove through other things that something can be true. Only because you don't understand something completely at the moment doesn't mean it isn't.
Okay, gotcha.
And could we say that's an authoritative fallacy? To an extent.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
To an extent, because maybe I don't understand it now, or maybe we are continuing to investigate to seek out the truth, to find out the truth, to challenge myself. But because this authority has been able to prove other things correctly that are probably backed up by science and stuff, that I'm willing to believe in this authority. Get what I'm saying? And as life passes by, I could start to see things that confirm my own bias. Right? I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
No, okay,
So to answer your question, could you have a debate conversation without using logical fallacies? You can. It is extremely hard because you have to be very aware of all the fallacies, and there are hundreds. Yeah. It is possible, but I would say it is rare.
Or difficult, probably.
Difficult because most of the time we are using them, either for good or bad.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would tend to agree with you. Because like I feel like no matter how good of a debate you are, I bet you there's like so many fallacies for anything. Yeah. And you could just say, hey, that's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. So man, I can't say anything, man. Breathing is a fallacy. Okay. So I'm just curious because maybe I didn't understand, and I could be wrong. I got your answer. Okay. What did that have to do with the confirmation bias and God as the authority fallacy? Like, what did that have to do with the answer? Maybe I just didn't connect it.
Because sometimes I feel like the appeal to authority, which is called the appeal to authority fallacy, could link with the confirmation bias.
Yeah, they could be linked. Okay,
they could be linked. Why? Because if I believe in something, I see a pattern, right? Like you spoke before. I see a pattern, I give it meaning, and now I'm starting to see maybe let's use the example I used previously, TikTok, an algorithm that's continuously confirming my bias.
Okay.
But that algorithm consists of, let's say, a successful person.
Okay.
That has a platform, has an audience, has a following, and they are consistent. They are saying something, a message that is confirming what I believe.
Okay.
And like they're somebody in a sense, right? Or they've made it in this life.
They're popular.
They're popular. They're celebrities, stuff like that. We tend to believe even more our confirmation bias because of the appeal to authority fallacy, because of somebody that is popular and has an impact on other people's lives, says something, therefore it confirms what we believe in. And that's why I mixed in a little bit of theology, just because it was the first thing that popped in my head, because God is a popular person.
Deity,
yeah.
No. So I definitely understand what that part. I guess what I'm trying to say is what everything you just said. What is the connection between that and your answer to? You can have a debate without logical fallacies, but it's very difficult unless you're aware. I'm just curious, was there a connection or no?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So that was my question. I was trying to connect that, unless I missed something. Because I agree with the second part you said, where you combine confirmation.
I feel like I was just like,
oh, you went on a tangent.
I went on a tangent.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine, because you are right. You could have confirmation plus the authoritative fallacy. You can 100%. Okay, I was just saying
it's. I think I was just mixing it that it is possible, but it's just very difficult, because when you go into that debate about these arguments or discussions, conversations that you have, it is almost impossible, because your example was like theology in a sense,
and then you gave the confirmation plus the authoritative fallacy.
Right. There are much others, like you can go into philosophical stuff and be like, this is true, and maybe there is evidence backing it up, but instead of using evidence, that you go back in the day and into Greek philosophy and be like, Socrates said this, Plato said that, and you're using fallacies while explaining your point. In a sense.
Okay. Yeah. I finally see the point you mentioned. Okay. So that was just like an example.
That was just an example to.
But I definitely would agree with your answer to the second question. And what about the first? That's the juicy one.
I totally forgot about the first. Can you remind me?
Yes. Maybe a personal example, or maybe someone you know in your personal life currently, or maybe in the past, where they use confirmation bias to try to tell you something or persuade you of something. Again, you don't have to mention names, but.
Okay. Tends to interpret new evidence to validate one's beliefs.
Maybe how you did it, or someone else that you know did it to you, and now that you think back to it, now you're like, oh yeah, they did this to me, or like they try to use confirmation bias on me.
Tends to interpret new evidence to validate one's existing beliefs.
If you don't have one, or maybe later on in the conversation it'll come to you, then you can.
I think let's do it later on in the conversation.
No problem.
I want something to think on. I want something to click before I let this extend. Do you have one?
Let me think. If I had to say one, I could think of one actually. Yeah.
Okay.
So I would say this is like a theological one actually. A theological one. So for example, this is a claim I've heard a lot. I won't say who said it, but it's actually a very popular claim. So for example, what?
I feel like I know it.
It's like a biblical one, right? Okay. So for example, the claim is Isaiah 53.
Okay.
And again, I'm not going to go into the detail. I'm just going to say the claim. Okay. Isaiah 53 is a very famous chapter and is a suffering servant. And most, all of Christianity, or let's just say most, when they read that chapter, they're like, clearly this is speaking about Jesus.
Yeah.
Speaking about Jesus. He suffered for our sins, right? Okay. So that's the claim. Confirmation bias, as what we said, is when you try to find evidence that supports what you're thinking. So, for example, they'll go into, like, say, Matthew and Mark in the New Testament, and they'll say, look, right here in these chapters, in these verses, Jesus is portrayed as the Messiah who dies for our sin. Mark, the Gospel of Mark and Matthew have this theme, and they even say that, listen, they put in Jesus' mouths that he has to die for the sins of the world. And again, I'm just being very quick and vague here. I'm not really going into detail. Yeah. So they'll say, look, right, this evidence proves that Isaiah 53 is speaking about whatever, Jesus as the Messiah has died for our sins. So what just happened, right? They looked at a text, then they looked at another text and said, look, these books are confirming what I believe that Isaiah 53 is about Jesus. And maybe they heard this from a pastor, or they got it from a YouTube channel or something that also confirms this. But then I asked them, have you seen the Jewish version, or the Jewish interpretation of what Isaiah 53 has always been about? And remember, Judaism has come before Christianity. Did they ever believe historically, the Jews, that Isaiah 53 is about the Messiah or about Jesus? So you see what's happening? And they're probably going to say, no, and most Christians that I've spoken to, they're like, no, I didn't know that, or I didn't look into that. So they're confirming their own thinking by looking at a text that they believe in, because Jews don't believe in the New Testament, or Muslims, right? That they believe in already from a belief that Isaiah 53 is about Jesus. Okay. And again, I'm not here to preach or anything. I'm just saying this is a claim I've heard.
Sounds like it.
Oh, well, throw me out then. So again, this is just a claim that I've heard a lot, and they're using confirmation bias to prove it.
Basically, only seeking out information that confirms their beliefs.
Correct.
While ignoring or discrediting information that won't support them.
Correct. They're not looking at the other side. Correct. Yeah, correct.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay, nice. I think this also links to another logical fallacy.
All right, go ahead.
Which is called the bandwagon effect.
Ooh, I know that one, but go.
The bandwagon effect.
Oh, no.
In this world, there are a lot of bandwagons.
Literally.
I mean, we all are to a certain extent, maybe some more than others.
Okay.
But let's get into what a bandwagon effect is, right?
Tell us.
So it's like a herd mentality.
Okay.
What's a herd mentality? Is where people adopt the behavior and views of a dominant group.
Okay.
For example, if something is very popular to buy, like let's say an iPhone, which is very popular.
It is, yes, it is.
You know, people are like, oh, if you don't have FaceTime, if you don't have the blue bubble, you know,
you're a brokey, you're
a loser.
Which is true, though.
What? I'm an Android guy, so I beg to differ.
Oh. So you're saying I'm on the bandwagon effect?
I think you're on the bandwagon effect, 100%.
Okay.
Because it looks nicer and it's more simpler. But anyways, I'm getting off the topic. You know, the blue message and everything. But because it's very popular, regardless of whether they need it, can afford it, or even really want it, the bandwagon effects in consumption can also be related to consumptious consumption, where consumers buy expensive products as a signal of economic status. So sometimes people, whether they need it, they don't need it, could afford it, or really want it, still get it.
Correct.
Why? Because everyone else has it. And like everyone else has it, I have to have it. I want to be like the cool guys. And I think a lot of this bandwagon comes, especially when in our younger years, right? Depending on what's cool at the moment, right? I remember during high school, sliding in Heelys was cool. I don't know if you remember.
Really? In high school?
Oh, no, middle school.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was in high school. I don't remember them saying that's cool.
We are 4 years apart, so.
Oh, that is true. But
I don't know if you remember the Heelys era.
I used to love Heelys.
Everyone used to come with Heelys and just like slide through the hallways. It was cool. I never had a pair.
Me neither. I never had a pair.
But I saw other people like sliding Heelys. I would like to like try one day, actually.
I think that they still sell them. So yeah, on Amazon.
But sliding Heelys was like a cool thing, like back in the day, right? And everyone started to do it. Everyone started to buy a pair, right? Why? Because it was the trend. it was the cool new thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this can not only apply to consumers that buy shoes or phones. It can apply to sports.
Mm-hmm.
It can apply to music, clothing. Like if a celebrity comes out with something just because they have a following and they're popular in a sense, people want to buy it, right? In sports, depending on who's the best player at the time,
or the best team,
For example, recently in the past decade, the Warriors, everyone just jumped on that bandwagon, right?
Yes.
Oh, I'm a Warriors fan. Really? Since when? Is it just because Curry started shooting threes and winning championships? Or you jump on when LeBron was in the Miami Heat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And out of nowhere, everyone's a Heat fan. I'm like, since when? Like, do you know the history of LeBron? Like, he came from the Cavaliers first, right? So, like, you tend to just jump on a bandwagon sometimes. Music tends to be a trend. Oh, this music is popping. Let me just listen to it because everyone else is. Mm-hmm. And that's just what people like, right? Mm. So that tends to be the bandwagon effect. So why does exactly the bandwagon effect occur?
Yes.
Well, individuals are highly influenced by the pressure and norms exerted by groups.
Yes.
When it seems like the majority of the group is doing a certain thing, not doing that thing becomes increasingly difficult, right? So that can also depend on your social environment, your friends. If your friends are all doing one thing, that peer pressure, in a sense, either them giving it to you or not, could seem like, I just want to fit in, or it seems cool, it seems right. Mm-hmm. Why not I do it, right? Because it's a natural tendency for people to follow along with the rest of the group. Sometimes we do it because we feel pressured. Mm-hmm. In other cases, we compare ourselves to others and then try to change to be more like the group. Hopping on trends can even play a role in being helpful in helping us bond with others. So, man, this could apply to so many things. Like
what?
To trends. I mean, to even like, I don't want to get back into religious things, right? But like, if you tend to hang around certain group of people that follow a certain culture, a certain tradition, a certain religion, and out of nowhere you fall in it, or you tend to follow it now, it could be considered a bandwagon effect. Let's say you didn't do your research, you didn't see if I mean, we're gonna ignore the subjective part, because that is something we can't prove, whether you felt it or not. If it's real for you or not,
like the presence of God and so forth.
Right. Yeah, let's ignore that part. Just the objectivity part of it. If you didn't do your study, and if you didn't really research, you don't really know the answer of things, it could have been a bandwagon effect where the people around you influenced, or you felt some type of pressure. Maybe you wanted to connect more with them, what they were saying, and it helped you bond closer with them. And a lot of the things they were saying, maybe you didn't disagree with. And maybe some of your views on what you had in life was in agreement with that specific group. And you were like, oh, wait, I could relate to this, and let me just jump on it, because this got to be it.
Because you already believe a lot of it.
You already believe a lot of it because of maybe subjective experiences or or patterns in life that you gave meaning to, right? Therefore, you just like, because of the pressure, either peer pressure or not, or the influence that you're getting in your social environment, you follow it.
So wait, just question on that with what you just said.
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting. Is the bandwagon effect only about pressure? Like the group pressures you to think or do a certain thing? Or does bandwagon include that plus like positive influence or like indirect influence as well, and everything else you just said?
Ooh, great question.
I'm curious. I don't know if you found that in your research or in the articles you read.
Well, it definitely did focus more on the pressured side of things.
Okay.
But you're referring to, I guess, the subconscious?
No, so what I'm referring, so for example,
you said indirect.
So when I said indirect, I meant like the people influenced you, not directly like, hey, you better do this or else, or like, come on, this is the better way. Like they just showed you a good example, like they're so moral, they're so nice, and stuff like that. So indirectly,
it can be both.
So it can be. Okay,
it can definitely be both.
But are you saying according to the definition?
I think according to the definition,
it's more the negative, or it could be both.
Well, most of these fallacies come from a negative side than a positive, I believe.
No, yeah, 100%. But I'm saying the influence on the definition of bandwagon, is that only like pressure related, or it could be both? Where like someone influenced you indirectly, positively.
I think it's more based on the pressure.
On the pressure, okay. But it could be the other two. It could be.
It could, but I don't know if that would fall into the bandwagon effect.
So then, if like people change teams, let's say, are people pressured into changing?
Then
teams?
We have to see, I guess, the reasoning.
Like friends of you, like you told me about people you know, they become Warrior fans, right?
Yeah.
Did they do it because they were pressured into it, or were they?
It's more like I know what teams you like. I know what players you like. I've known you for a while. You've never talked about the Warriors, or ever converted into a Warriors fan.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, I see you wearing a Warriors jersey and be like, I'm a Warriors fan, and be telling everybody, and like, excuse me, the other day you were following the Pistons, like,
oh damn,
like,
they're not so good.
So it's like, okay, seems more like a bandwagon effect.
Interesting.
More than not that you had to be born into like being this
Warriors fan,
but little by little, I guess you got to adopt it and you got to learn from it.
Oh, gotcha.
Maybe the history of it.
Or marketing.
Right.
Or marketing just convinced you.
Yeah, or marketing convinced you too. So, I mean, it could be a mix of a lot of things, but I don't know if the subconscious one or the indirect one of showing a good example and stuff like that would apply to the bandwagon effect.
I think so.
You think so?
I think because you're kind of telling me. Tell me if it's, and you explain to me. Tell me if I'm right or wrong. It sounds like you're, from what you're saying, but also from what I've heard and what I've heard and stuff. Like, have you ever heard the expression, "Oh, you just joined the bandwagon"? I don't know if you've ever heard of that expression. Yeah. Like you just joined the bandwagon, and you're right. It's like you don't have to be born into a team. And most people are not like trying to like, you gotta be this team, you gotta be this team. You naturally, right, did it either for marketing, or you learned the history and like, oh, I want to be this team. So now you're joining the bandwagon because everyone else is doing it. But you're right, it might not be pressure related, even though that's what we initially think of. I think you're right.
Maybe majority is.
Okay.
Because people tend to be very ignorant.
Of course, yeah.
Right.
We didn't say that.
People tend to be very ignorant and maybe just follow along because a majority is doing it instead of being like, do I actually like this? Or would I actually follow this? Or look at more of the objectivity side of things instead of the subjectivity side of things. But I guess it could apply to everything, but I believe the majority of the bandwagon effect is because of pressure.
Because of pressure. Okay. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Can I ask you a question based on everything you're saying?
Sure. Tell me.
So I have two questions.
Okay.
Okay. You ready?
I got to come up with some questions for you.
So I maybe the first one's easier for you. I don't know. My first question would be, once your son grows a little bit older, right? How would you explain to him to not fall into a bandwagon effect with his friends or at school? I'm just curious how would you explain that to when he's like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? I don't know, when he's old enough, right? Because obviously he's not going to understand now. That's my first question. How would you do that? And my second question would be, have you ever fell in the bandwagon effect for a team? Be honest.
For a team?
Yeah. Or just anything else, or maybe anything else.
I mean, many people would call me like a LeBron bandwagon because I followed him his whole career. And I tend to like the team he's in.
But you admitted it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay.
The thing is that, to excuse myself, I wasn't born in a family that followed basketball.
True.
Everyone followed soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, when I started to follow basketball, I was the only one. So I've related myself to obviously a great player, LeBron James, because of the work ethic, how he studied the game, how he played the game the right way, and stuff like that. So no one would tell me, "Oh, you got to follow this team, you got to follow that team." It didn't come from my father. You wouldn't even watch basketball either back then.
True.
So it just kind of like I adopted it myself, and maybe it was a bandwagon effect because maybe it was the top most viewed video, and I saw LeBron. I just ended up falling in love with it, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
With his play style. So yeah, I guess I am bandwagon. But I wouldn't consider that a bad bandwagon.
No, me neither. I wouldn't. No.
Either way,
no, I don't think so either.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that a bad bandwagon to justify me. But answering your first question with my son, I guess it would depend on what I see he's trying to do or follow.
Okay.
For example, I'll give something very personal. A bandwagon effect that still occurs until this day that people tend to do because other people are doing, but don't even know the definition of it or what it stands for, is a lot of kids sagging their pants.
Kids what?
Like sagging their pants.
Sagging the pants.
Sagging, right? Or not kids, but like teenagers, like sagging. And they think they look cool and like showing their ass or
their underwear.
Right? I'm not trying to see that, bro. But it's a cool thing. All the cool kids do it. If I would see my son adopting that, or before he even started it, I would teach him, where does this come from? Why do people do this? But what is the real meaning of doing that? Right? Where did it start from? So he won't fall into that bandwagon effect just because the other cool kids, quote unquote, are doing it.
Gotcha.
So that's how I could be preventative of that. But there's obviously going to be other things that I'm not going to be able to prevent beforehand. I'm just going to have to see. And then depending, I guess, if I view it as a good or bad thing, I could just let it be or not. Right? Because sometimes kids do things because it's a trend and it's cool and everyone's doing it and it's not harmful.
To society.
To society, it's not harmful. It's just kids want to rock these sunglasses and it's cool for everybody to rock them. So, do it. Be part of the cool kids, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt anybody for you to do this, right? But if I see that it could affect him or his behavior and stuff like that, it's probably something I would address.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's interesting. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there something that you could say about your life? I know I'm just asking you the same questions back.
Yes, you can't do that. It's a different question.
Very boring.
Different question. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to answer. You don't have to ask me a question. No, you can maybe later on if you want. Up to you.
Do you think you're a bandwagon?
Probably. Yeah, probably. Let me think. I would probably say my love for Lord of the Rings. Because I remember before I watched it, there was a ton of people who told me how great it was and you got to watch this movie. You never had anyone tell you got to watch this, man. It's the best thing ever. Never? Oh, meet tons of people. Tons. So it's like I got like pressure. You got to watch. This is, if you don't like this, it's like something's wrong with you. Right? And I watched Lord of the Rings and I ended up loving it. But maybe it was a bandwagon effect. Maybe I was like, if I don't like this, people are going to think I'm crazy. And I watched it at a young age and I loved it. And I still love it to this day. So maybe that put me into a bandwagon effect.
I actually do have a question.
There you go.
Do you believe bandwagon effects come more at a younger age than an older age?
I think it can come in all ages but I do think then maybe the bandwagon effects that could affect younger kids might be different, or the topics or the themes are different from when you're an adult already.
Right, but
I think, yeah.
It can happen at any age, correct?
Yeah, correct. Happen at any age.
But do you think it is more prone or to happen to younger?
I think external, and I'll explain what that means. External. Do I say problems? External things, or externality, if that's even a word. Maybe I'm making it up now. Externality affects more younger people. So the bandwagon effects that can influence younger kids has to do more with things that are external, like what you mentioned, the way you look, how you dress, what things you say, right? It's all the external to show something else. Versus maybe I think when you're an adult, there's more internal, maybe more intellectual, internal things that might put people more into a bandwagon effect, because you care less about externality as you get older.
Yeah, because that's what I was referring to. Because as you get older, you tend to have like stronger opinions or stick to what you say.
Yeah,
and no matter what another person says, they're wrong.
Yeah.
While I feel like as a kid, it's easier to change your mind, but maybe that could, like you said, that could be more an external thing.
Yes, I mean, it is easier to change your mind when you're younger.
Yeah, I mean, that can also be an internal.
Yes.
For example, if I want to tell you you're wrong about something you believe in, and you've only started to believe in the past year or so, it's easier to change your mind than someone that's been believing that for the past 30.
Of 100%.
Right, because I have...
There's a name to this.
Sorry?
There's a name to this.
Exactly.
It's a type of fallacy. What you're saying is a type of fallacy. It's called a sunken cost fallacy.
Sunken cost fallacy.
Exactly what you're saying.
Sunken cost?
Sunken cost.
Sunken cost.
Okay. COST. Where you just said, I've been doing this for 1 year, believing this for 1 year, versus someone who's been doing it for 30. The one who's doing it for 1 year has a better chance of changing their mind, because it's only been a year, so it's fine.
Yeah, and maybe you haven't had enough time to really study or get into it.
Correct.
Right? But changing, that's why I'm saying a kid's mind is probably it's obviously easier to change than an adult, because someone that's been believing in something for X amount of years compared to a brief amount, come on, like it's easier to change. Okay, that's why I asked, do you think the bandwagon effect could be more, what's the word? Prone to affect change in young adults and teenagers than in actual older?
You're saying, is there a higher chance of them changing, or is there a higher chance of them falling into a bandwagon effect?
Higher chance of them falling into a bandwagon effect.
Okay. So your question is, which is like a part B, is like, is there a higher chance of younger people falling into a bandwagon effect than older people?
Older people. Internally, externally.
Internally.
Applying both.
Applying both?
Applying both.
I don't know. I mean, I obviously, I don't think there's any, or maybe there's objective data on this. I haven't read any of that, right?
I could be wrong too. I'm just like,
I think it can apply to both equally. I just think that what I said previously, I just think they're on different things, though, different topics. But is it more easier for younger people? Well, maybe there could be an opinion. I'm not saying this is my opinion, but there could be either a psychological or a psychological or a social opinion that says that, yeah, maybe for younger people it's easier to fall into a bandwagon effect because they have less experience, or they're still trying to figure themselves out.
Right.
But then you can also say, probably not, because most people are not aware of the bandwagon effect anyway, even if you're young or older. If you ask most people, do you know what the bandwagon effect is? Most people are going to say no.
You don't have to be aware of it for it to be happening to you.
You don't have to be aware of a fallacy
for it to be happening to you.
Oh, yeah, correct. A lot of times people are not aware of this.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, no, but that's the whole point. Young or old, most people are not aware. Most people are not aware of these fallacies or cognitive biases. They're not.
But regardless of them being aware or not, put that to the side. Could it be more prone to affect younger adults than older adults?
According to that one opinion that I mentioned, that one social or psychological.
Am I using a fallacy right now? Or?
I don't know, actually. I don't know all the hundreds of thousands of them. I know we know a lot of them, but I don't think we know. I don't know all of them. Maybe
I might be using a fallacy right
now. You're wrong. Okay. But according to that one opinion or that one psychological perspective, maybe it is younger people. But me personally, I'm not sure. I think it can apply to both equally. But that's me. But I haven't seen any statistics or objective data on this.
Thank you for your neutral answer.
But it's true. I don't know.
Gotcha. It's all good.
So did you have another fallacy you want to talk
about?
Oh, you don't?
Unless, well...
Because you mentioned confirmation, and you mentioned the fallacy from authority, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah. I mentioned the confirmation one and the bandwagon effect. I don't know if you want to talk about one.
About one? Yeah, I'll mention one.
Because I believe the other one, I want to leave it for
next time?
Next time.
Okay.
Unless you want to...
Yeah, I think the one I want to talk about, and I at the end, I do want to mention how people can get away from these fallacies.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I think is, for me personally, the most important things are, how do we form beliefs as humans? And number two, how do we get rid, maybe not completely, but how can we be better at avoiding logical fallacies in different topics? But I think that's at the end. Unless you want me to talk about that now, or should I mention, you want me to mention the logical fallacy I had planned?
Yeah, mention.
So yeah, the one I was going to mention is something called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy.
Okay, haven't heard of this one.
Where basically, the way it sounds is like a guy takes a gun, he shoots a bunch at the side of a barn, right? And then you look at the bullet holes, you see maybe some bullets are here, some bullets are here, but then there's like a bunch of bullets in one area. Then the guy who shot goes to where the bullets are all in one area, and he puts a bullseye around it on the ones that are very close, right? And then if he goes away, and if someone were to pass by and sees, like, wow, whoever shot here was very accurate. Now the question is, was he accurate? Was the guy who's shooting, was he actually accurate?
Oh no, because there's bullets here, there's bullets there.
And then at the end, he drew circles around the bullets he wanted to.
He what do you call it when you mess up with evidence?
Tampering?
Yeah.
He was tampering with evidence. Tampering?
Yeah. So, and then when people come in and see what's necessarily not true, people tend to believe it's true.
It's true because he tampered with the hole, with the bullet hole, and he put the bullseye around it. He's like, and then you come in, you're like, wow, this guy was very accurate.
Yeah.
But he wasn't.
Yeah.
So now, what does that mean, right? So people have this misconception. I've done this. I think everyone does this, where it's like, we believe that we as humans, that we're so logical and objective, and that when we're trying to determine cause and effect, we take randomness into account.
Okay.
What does that mean? That basically when we're figuring out what's true or not, let's say, or we're looking at data, right? Or a pattern, right? We think as humans, coincidences and random chances, I'm factoring that into what I'm reading, so I can come out with the truth. Now, I found a phenomenal definition that makes this a little bit more simple, and I have it here. It says, Texas sharpshooter fallacy is when a person ignores random chance when the results seem meaningful, or when you want a random event to have a meaningful cause and right, you want it to have a meaningful cause. In other words, the Texas sharpshooter fallacy occurs when someone selectively interprets data to create a false pattern of cause and effect, disregarding contradictory evidence. So instead of evaluating all the information objectively, you focus only on supporting data to fit a narrative that you have, leading to misleading conclusions. So basically, it's when you cherry pick data to hit your conclusion already. Okay.
Awesome.
And you're ignoring contradictory evidence, right? and we do this because of the confirmation bias, right? But it basically just means it's like,
because you did say in the first sentence, when something happens, you ignore it.
Yeah, a person ignores random chance when the results seem meaningful. So, for example, I'll give you an example, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Because it's a little complicated. It's complicated, but once you figure, you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. So I'll give you some short ones, and then I'll give you an interesting, actually, let me give you the interesting one, the more interesting one. So watch this. Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy were both presidents of the United States, okay? Elected 100 years apart. That's the one. Both presidents were shot and killed by assassins who were known by three names with 15 letters, right? Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald. Neither killer made it to the trial period, right? Kennedy had a secretary named Lincoln. They were both killed on a Friday while sitting next to their wives. Lincoln got killed in the Ford Theater, and Kennedy in a Lincoln made by a Ford in a car, right? Both men were succeeded by a man named Johnson, Andrew for Lincoln and Lyndon for Kennedy. Andrew was born in 1808 and Lyndon was born in 1908. What are the odds? So do you see the patterns? Like, oh my God. They were born 100 years apart.
Yeah.
They both got killed the same way next to their wives in theaters. I mean, one in this theater, one in that theater.
Huge coincidence.
It's like, what are the odds?
It's gotta mean something.
Correct. This is what I'm saying. It's when you see like randomness and you put meaning to it. You see a pattern and you put meaning to it. You're like, all this is putting together. This is how conspiracy theories are formed, basically. They see all these things like, oh my God, this all makes sense. And they come up with a narrative or a conclusion that probably is not true, but they're putting meaning, right, like to these patterns. And then when there's contradictory evidence, they ignore it.
Like zodiac signs.
No. But yeah, no, actually, you're right. Like zodiac signs. That's correct.
Yeah, because these signs tend to be a little bit more quiet, but you find a loud person that it's a specific zodiac sign. Oh, no, they're not that.
They're not really that.
They're not really that. You know, their moon or sun might be a little different. You know.
So correct. It's funny. I was going to mention that example, but you beat me to it. Correct. Okay. It's like they'll say, "Oh, Pisces are this," and then they'll tell you, "See, 3 of my friends are Pisces, and they're all like that." Exactly. But then you'll say, "Yeah, but I know 18 Pisces. They're not like that."
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's the sun or the moon. Which one is it?
It might be an Aquarius moon and in a Gemini sun.
Wow.
They were born across around the world.
Wow. But how do you know so much of this?
Women.
But that's correct. I'll give you a better example, right? Let's say, and I read this example from in a book called You're Not So Smart. You know which book I'm talking about. So they give an example. Let's say you're dating someone. You go out on the first date. Oh yeah, looking bitches out, biceps, triceps, all looking. Whoa! And you go on the first date, and you know she has the same car you have, maybe a different color, but it's the same model. Then you find out her mom and your mom have the same name, same birthdays. Wow, okay. Then you find out we love the same food. We love the same movies.
We're meant for each other.
Wow, we were born, right? We were born 6 months from each other. And guess what? Your favorite number is 6. My favorite number is 6.
Let's get married.
So you know where I'm going with this. And then you start thinking, wow, this is not a coincidence. Now, from a theological perspective, maybe certain things are not a coincidence, but I'm just talking about it in this example, right? So you see all these things and you're like, I see a pattern, right? Now, the 𝗕𝗃𝗄𝗴𝘃 fallacy comes into play because you see all these patterns, right? And you're not taking into account, hey, this might just be a coincidence because you know something? We are the same age, right? So we might like the same things because we were probably born in the same decade. Our moms are probably near the same age. They were born in the same country, and these names were pretty popular during that time period. So
now you're thinking,
and then you find all the plot holes.
Yeah.
But guess what your mind does? You see a pattern, you attach meaning to it, and you're like, this must be a sign from God, right? This must be a sign that we're meant to be with each other because this can't be a coincidence.
Yeah.
And then when there's contradictory evidence to all these patterns, you ignore it completely.
Like, yeah.
You're like, oh no, it's
not true.
It's not true. And then you're like,
fake news.
So correct. So you see what I'm talking about here, right?
Yeah.
And this happens in politics. It happens in politics and news, happens in theology. It happens in conversation, in debates, in evidence for archaeology. Again, this happens all over the place, right? So the most important thing you have to do is always to take a step back, right? And the best way to avoid all these types of fallacies, or like, let's say this one specifically, there's two types of things you have to do, which I actually wrote here.
Tell us.
I just want to. So what is basically you want to have. Wait, you want to go into something called a Diocletian. I think it's called Diocletian. Dialectical. I'm sorry. You want to go into dialectical thinking, and then number two, you want to go into Bayesian thinking. Dialectic thinking is basically when you take a step back and you look at the other side's evidence.
Gotcha.
So you avoid confirmation bias or maybe other types of fallacies.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look at the other evidence. If it's subjective, I'm going to challenge myself. Is it subjective, objective? What is it? Let me see it. Give me your best argument. I want you to make this a strong argument so I can see it, and then I can make a decision. And the second one, which was the Bayesian thinking, is that we should now. The second one that doesn't always apply to everything, but in this case it does, which is the idea that we should constantly update our beliefs based on new evidence. So your thinking should change, and actually this happens naturally when you are always on the pursuit of learning. When you keep learning things more and more and more about money, life, psychology, all types of things, once you learn something, you're like, I didn't know this. Guess what happens? Your old belief or your old way of thinking, it goes down, it drops, and now there's a new way of thinking. And guess what? Now you're smarter, you're more intelligent, you have more intellect, right? It is changing into new thinking because there's new evidence, or you just learned something new, and that article, that book, that study is the new evidence that's going to help you think differently now. Again, that second way of thinking does not apply to everything. I don't think it always applies to theology or maybe certain things of, again, not all of us, certain things of faith or theology or metaphysics and so forth. But for a lot of things that we're talking about, it does.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I love it. It's very interesting. I like having these conversations when we talk about the logical fallacies.
Yes, it's fascinating.
Fascinating. And I think there's a lot more that we definitely have to go into. But definitely teaches us how to debate, to argue, to have discussions, and to really understand where these logical fallacies come from and how to avoid them.